Hello and thank you for attending my PowerPoint presentation on Topaz and Numby of the 10 Stonehearts. Topaz is the first of the 10 Stonehearts to become playable, and she's, I believe, the second or third lowest ranking among them. She is also arguably the only Stoneheart who has a likable personality. She also gets more likable every patch that she appears in, which is cool. Like, come on, look at her signature light cone art, it's adorable. It was released in version 1.4 before follow-ups became actually truly prevalent. Like, back then, she didn't even have access to Ash Blazing Grand Duke. That was added at 1.5. So she was just using mix of two-piece Musketeer and two-piece Firesmith. Interestingly, her CN name is Topaz, which is not actually Topaz's direct translation to Chinese. It's just a transcription to sound like the English one. This is mostly interesting because Jade and Aventurine, whose names are Fei Cui and Sha Jing respectively, are actual translations for Jade and Aventurine, which really makes me curious about why. In terms of base stats, it's pretty standard for a hunt character. She has low bulk, high attack, high speed, above average energy cost, which is the standard hunt glass cannon build. Her basics count as follow-up attacks, but are otherwise basic. They do more damage than most other basics since she actually wants to build crit and actually uses this. This generates 1 skill point and 20 energy. Her skill inflicts a single target enemy with Proof of Death, which gives that target follow-up vulnerability. This only takes effect on the most recent targets applied to, and if there aren't any enemies that's afflicted with Proof of Death on the field, whenever an ally's turn starts, they will immediately inflict Proof of Death on a random enemy instead. Anyway, after inflicting Proof of Death, she then does single target damage. This counts as a follow-up attack. This consumes 1 skill point and generates 30 energy. Alright, her talent summons Numby at the start of battle. Numby has 80 speed by default, although it doesn't really matter. When taking action, Numby does a follow-up attack, which has equal scaling to her skill. Whenever enemies with Proof of Death are hit by follow-up attacks, his action is advanced by 50%. This does not count on her own turn. When Topaz is down, Numby disappears, though Numby can still act when Topaz is CC. Numby's attacks do not generate energy by default. Her ult causes Numby to enter Windfall Bonanza, and its damage multiplier increases by a huge amount, which is doubled at the same talent level, and also gains some crit damage. When enemies in Proof of Death are hit by an ally's basic, skill, or ult, Numby's action is advanced forward by 50%. Numby exits Windfall Bonanza after using 2 attacks, regardless of the number of actual turns that Topaz has gone through. Importantly, during the ult, if another character uses a basic or skill or ult that also counts as a follow-up, like Topaz's own skill or like Fei Xiao's ult or something, it will trigger the action advance twice and immediately advance it by 100%. This costs 130 energy. Alright, her technique summons Numby whenever Topaz enters the overworld. Like, not when she uses her technique, when she switches on to the overworld, she immediately summons Numby. Numby will automatically search for treasures and trotters within a set radius. If Topaz is still alive after defeating overworld enemies, she will get a small amount of credits, which is frankly extremely insignificant. Like, it's a maximum of 10,000 bonus credits per IRL day, which is honestly pretty insignificant. Like, I have several million credits. After using her technique and defeating enemies in Simulator or Divergent, you will also receive an extra amount of cosmic fragments with a small chance to obtain 1 random curio. Now, I'm not sure if this works in the new Unknowable Domain, though I assume it probably does, since it doesn't actually involve blessings or anything. Anyway, actually using the technique will cause her to regenerate 60 energy for Topaz after Numby's first attack in the next battle. Her A2 trace, like I mentioned earlier, causes her basic attack to deal follow-up damage. Her A4 trace gives her 15% fire damage bonus against enemies who are fire weak. Not vulnerability, that's different. Her A6 trace causes her to additionally regenerate 10 energy after Numby attacks while in Windfall Bonanza, effectively lowering her energy cost down to 110. She also gets 22.4% fire damage bonus, 12% crit rate, and 10% HP from minor traces. On a side note, A6 is actually called Stonks Market in-game, which is pretty funny. With her E1, whenever enemies with Proof of Depth receive a follow-up attack, they enter a Debtor state, up to 2 stacks, but only up to once per action. With each stack increases crit damage received by 25%. Debtor lasts until Proof of Depth is removed, so which is to say when she uses her skill on another target, or when the enemy dies. Her E2 causes her to regenerate 5 energy whenever Numby attacks. This counts both her talent as well as her skill. Her E3 gives +2 trace levels to her skill and +1 to her basics. Her E4 advances her action by 20% after Numby's turn begins. This does not work with her own skill. Her E5 gives +2 trace level to her ult and talent, and her E6 gives Numby 1 more enhanced attack and 10% fire res pen during Topaz's ult duration. Like I said earlier, she's one of the most likable figures among the IPC. Like, even Boothill acknowledges that she's one of the better ones over at the IPC. And Boothill justifiably hates the IPC with a burning passion. Just like her ult, her value has skyrocketed since her release in 1.4. In follow-up teams, she can be quite versatile. She can either act as a sub-DPS with just her talent and ult while spamming basics if you need skill points, or she can be a skill spamming DPS, or she can be a mix of both. Most of the time, she will be. Also, she's incredibly satisfying in Elation builds in Divergent Universe or Golden Gears, since literally everything in her kit counts as follow-up, so Elation Aftertaste triggers a lot of dopamine. Alright, hope you enjoyed. If you did, do like and subscribe. You might as well check out the other PowerPoints if you're watching this one if you haven't already. Alright, bye!